Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Excited to be here tonight. Welcome to Tampa Talk Tuesday Live. We're excited. Tonight is numbers night. And if you're interested in the Tampa real estate market, today is the day. This is the one that you wanted to be here. We're going to get into the nitty gritty tonight. Pretty excited about that. We made the announcement that we were going to do this at the last Tuesday of every month moving forward. That way we can get the data for you guys and really share what's going on here in the Tampa Bay real estate market as a whole. I've got a format I'm going to discuss with you guys so you kind of know what to expect this evening. But of course, I want to introduce my just lovely co-host who have us this evening. Good evening, Stacy. How are you tonight?
Hello, everyone. Doing fabulous. How about yourself?
I am doing great. Stacy's been running around with our clients for the last few days. She is in the works of putting together a potential offer for a beach condo for clients who are relocating down from Virginia. So they are trying to live that dream and she's trying to make it a reality. So pretty excited about that.
And I want to live that dream right next to him.
That's great. Well, it's been fun. I got to hang out with them last week before the holiday. And then Stacy took over for me as I've been preparing content for you guys. You know, that's the mix of this channel, is trying to make sure that we're getting the content that you guys want to see, but also making sure that we're servicing you as clients. So, you know, we definitely have been able to, you know, be blessed in that respect. So y'all, thank you as always for not only being a great audience, but for trusting us with your Tampa real estate needs. So we're very excited for that. And we're going to do a little bit of nerding out here. I'm going to try to give visuals. Bear with me. We're going to break it down into different categories this evening. I thought that would be most helpful. Usually I come on here and I can just talk numbers for days, but that's not always the best. In terms of viewing, and it can be difficult to kind of decipher. So what I wanted to do tonight to really help things along here is I wanted to help you guys just kind of understand what the structure is going to be from this evening and what you can expect from us. Okay. So we're going to talk about the overall sales in the greater Tampa Bay area. We're going to talk about inventory. What's the current inventory situation? We're going to talk about prices because that's important. We're not only going to talk about the average prices, we're going to break them down per category. Okay. We're also going to talk about distressed properties because that is something that we haven't had to talk about in years, literally. But it is now becoming a reality again. And while I don't ever want to talk about someone else's misery, it is something to be aware of, right? And for whatever reason, whether it's a short sale or foreclosure, they are starting to pop back up. So this is something to take note of. It is normal, unfortunately, like I said. I don't love talking about it, but it is. We're also going to talk about things that are happening in Tampa Bay, so keep that in perspective. But I really wanted to help give you a snapshot. That way, if you're considering selling, buying or investing here in the greater Tampa Bay area, at least you got a good place to start. We're going to take all of this information that I share with you. The only thing I won't be able to share with you guys via link is going to be our local MLS. Unfortunately, if you're not a licensed real estate agent and you don't pay the board here, they won't let you in. But everything else I'm taking from public resources on purpose, and then I'm validating that against what our numbers are locally through the board as well, so you can get some well-rounded perspective. Okay, and the numbers we're going to be talking about this evening, before we get rocking and rolling here, is we're going to be talking about October's sales data. Okay, and the reason that we're talking about October and not November is because November has not closed out yet. Okay, so the way real estate sales work is, you know, at the end of the month, they record all of that information at the county seat. They take all that information and they share it back across the MLS and with the boards, and then we can bring you accurate information. And the whole goal of this evening, like I said, is to provide you with information that you can use to make data-driven decisions about the local real estate market here in the greater Tampa Bay area. So I'm excited. I don't know that Stacy shares my enthusiasm for the details and numbers, but if you do, you're in for it tonight. This is going to be
I'm
great.
sure you're going to make it fun.
We're going to do our best, right? We're going to do our best. It won't be me talking straight numbers at you. We're going to share perspective, what we're seeing in the streets. That's very important too, right? Because while we share sales data, that is a lagging indicator, meaning that is what happened in the past. What you want to know most likely is what is going to happen in the future. And having a clear understanding of where you've been can really help you understand where things could potentially go. And that is the goal of tonight. So excited to get into that. We've got some guests with us this evening. Tony, I'm glad you're ready, my man. We're excited. Thanks for hanging with us tonight. We appreciate that. Elijah says the cold has gotten unbearable in Ohio. 24 degrees. It is. It is not. I can't wait to live that Tampa life. Elijah, I feel you, man. I was on the phone with my best friend today who lives back home in Metro Detroit, where I'm from originally. And he said it was 9 degrees this morning when he left the house.
Woo.
Ooh, man. Yeah. God bless y'all. I know that's tough. And let's be real, Stacy, it was 50 degrees this morning.
Yeah, it's chilly. Like, I had to break out my little space heater.
That's right. Oh my God. As Wick said, if you were wearing boots, today was our day as Floridians. We got to wear our boots. It's like, this is unseasonably cold for this time of year. Yes. Right. So that El Nino, whatever's happening up there, we ain't here for it. Y'all need to take it back up north. We ain't down. Get that thing out of here. It is it's too chilly.
No, I think the low tonight is like 46.
Oh, it's unbearable. That's unbearable. I'm saying that out loud right now. I'm from Michigan and I'm saying that right. It's unbearable. I moved here to never have to do that anymore. Right. So just to show you, yeah, it does change. But on the bright side of that, Stacy, we didn't have hardly any red tide this summer.
True.
Which is fascinating considering how warm it was all summer long. It was so hot this summer, y'all. We're just being real. And it was also our fall, but we didn't have much rain. And I think that's probably why. I was reading this giant article on it today. The runoff from the rain that sucks up all the fertilizer and all the pollution, that you would have on a street because we're at sea level, that runs off in the Gulf of Mexico, and that feeds that bacteria, and that's where that red tide comes from. Whole nother conversation. I know we came here for real estate data, but it's important to know, right? Because people ask about red tide when they call us, right? They want to know about it, and you should. It's something that I wasn't aware of before we moved down here because I didn't have cool videos like this to learn from, right? So definitely was an education. And of course, Kevin, my man, Kevin, you were late. You were not the first comment tonight. You were not. I mean, I feel I'm hurt. I'm hurt. And for those of you chiming in with us here, we would love to know where you guys are watching from. Okay. Where are you watching from? What's the temperature where you're at? Apparently, we'd love to know those details too. Feel free to ask questions. We do monitor the chat. I will try to get to those questions. If you have more questions about it, please feel free. Like I said, I'm going to link all of the information that I can share publicly with you guys in the description on YouTube, and I'll try to put that in the chat as we go along as well as we rock this out tonight. But here's how it's going to go. We're going to talk about the greater Tampa Bay area. Then we're going to break it down per county. So we're going to talk about Pinellas County, which is where Clearwater, St. Pete is. Just so y'all know, that's the Gulf beaches that almost everybody thinks about when they think about greater Tampa Bay area. We're going to talk about Hillsborough County, which is where Tampa proper is. Okay, that's going to be Riverview, Brandon, those areas as well, Plant City, North Tampa. And then we're going to move up into Pasco County where Stacy lives. And then she's going to share the numbers up in Pasco County as well. So not only are you going to get the 30,000 foot view, we're going to narrow down because you may be considering making a move to Wesley Chapel, or you might be considering making a move to Seminole or St. Pete or Tampa proper. So we want to make sure that we give you guys perspective. So like I said, bear with us. This is the first time I've tackled this format this way. I do have some stuff to share with you guys, but I think this is going to be most beneficial. And if you're watching this later, not during our live stream, we'll put the channel markers in there as well. So you'll be able to just hone on the specific category that you're interested in. And that way you can just watch what's important to you. So we'll get into that. But Stace, I want to get into these numbers here. The market has been very interesting over the last few months with our interest rates being outrageous. I do know that we've gotten some reprieve over the last probably 3 weeks or so with interest rates starting to dip down, which they just felt like monumental. I mean, it was a retread of last year, y'all. October 20th of last year, and I'm going to pull the numbers so you guys can see them. October 20th of last year, if I remember correctly, was the peak of interest rates. They were like 7.23 or something like that. Let me pull it up here. And I remember then, I was like, the market is going to just completely shut off. And it did. November was so slow last year. December was so slow. And it's not that prices went down. They started to dip a little bit. There were definitely way more price decreases being sellers were taking money off of their asking price, right? But prices didn't really go down. So that's something to keep in perspective as we kind of dig through these numbers a little bit. But we knew that was going to be coming based upon where the mortgage interest rates were. Interest rates drive demand. They really do. And the Federal Reserve doubled rates, as you guys can see here. Let me try to zoom in on this thing and make it more palatable for everybody. But like you can see, where we were. And if you go all the way back to July 19th, roughly, of 2021, that was like 2.88, baby. Right? if you got that interest rate, you were living the dream, and you can say that. And the fascinating part to me is, as we've gone a little bit further down the road here, Stacy, like that mortgage interest rate, anybody that has a 3.5 or lower, that actually has become a financial asset, which is crazy to think about. Like, nowhere when I was growing up as a child did someone look at me and say, you know what? There's going to be a point when your mortgage interest rate is going to be like owning gold bars. And I'm like, I just can't even. And y'all, bear with me. I know what you're listening to me like, Juan, what are you talking about? Think about it, guys. Think about how valuable that mortgage interest rate actually is. If you bought a home in 2021 and you have a 2.7, I know people that have a 2.35, right? And you have a 2.35% interest rate as an example, right? Or I'm sorry, let's just do the 2.88 that they had on the chart here. So let me pull that back up. That 2.8 in there is just crazy. 2.80. All right. So on Monday, December 7th of 2020, you got a 2.80% interest rate. If you are selling a home in today's market and you actually own that makes your house worth more money if you have an assumable mortgage. Number one, you can literally get more out of your home because you can hand that to a buyer at half, over half. Let me take a step back and clearly explain this. It's going to cost that new buyer half as much money to buy your home as it would any other property out there at a 7.5% interest rate. That is how powerful of a financial asset that mortgage is. And that is why you've heard so many people say, I'm not, you're going to have to pull this mortgage rate out of my cold, dead fingers, right? We're not moving anywhere unless we have to. And the reason that I'm starting here is because I want everybody to understand why people aren't moving and why the home prices haven't fallen like everybody expected them to, and why you should not expect that to happen anytime soon. Now, I want to preface this by saying I'm not an economist. I don't play one on TV. Okay. I do read the numbers daily, and I know how to do basic arithmetic. And our real estate market is based upon supply and demand. And if you do not have enough supply, you don't have to worry about a pricing issue. Okay. Now, we don't have a whole lot of demand, but if you don't have an overabundance of supply, when you have low demand, you don't have a pricing issue still. And that is what's occurred in our marketplace. So I want to keep your mind wrapped around that. All right. So mortgage interest rates started to take off roughly in August of 2021. That's when the Fed decided they were going to start making moves, and interest rates started to climb. And then we had this huge explosion. And this is when people lost their mind, right? Last year, when we got into the end of fall, and here it is, October 31st, 720, right around there, right? So let me look at that date, October 31st. Yep. So Halloween of 2022, mortgage interest rates hit 7.20. This pumped the brakes on all real estate, right, Stacey? It was like, if I could play a cricket noise. Do I have one? Hold on. I think I got one. Yeah. Right? It pumped the brakes on all real estate. People were like, I'm not moving. And there was culture shock, right? It literally happened. Now, we've gotten used to that. We had a little bit of a dip last year during February. Rates went down in the mid sixes, and then they started to climb back up. The Federal Reserve's just been pushing, trying to stifle demand and bring down inflation overall. And he's been trying to bring down home prices. But the challenge is there's not enough supply. So we're going to get into this a little bit deeper, right? All right. We got as high as 7.91, what Mortgage News Daily is recording here. And that happened on October 23rd of 2023. So almost a full year later, we're almost a half point higher. There are definitely mortgage interest rates over 8% if your credit wasn't great. Okay. So bear with me. I know you guys are like, Juan, you're talking a million miles a minute, but it's important for you to understand. This has been the main problem, right? And I heard someone say that the Federal Reserve put a poison pill in the real estate market when they took interest rates down to zero because people were not going to let go of those mortgage rates. We didn't know it at the time, but 2 years later, it's become very evident. People aren't going to move unless they have to. And then the other people who are moving are paying cash. Stacy, our clients that we're running around with right now, what are they using to purchase homes with?
Cash. Oh, cash.
They're buying cash. Okay. So it is a different market for sure. So we're going to get into the details here in the greater Tampa Bay area. And at the end, I'll try to wrap it up with some national numbers as well. Remember, real estate is local and it is hyper local. You can have one neighborhood in the city doing extremely well and another one performing terribly. So keep that in mind, right, as we go through this. But good news is interest rates have started to look more favorable. The overall general consensus of the market is that they believe the Federal Reserve is done in raising interest rates. I'm not here to tell you one way or the other. Everything points towards that, but things have changed before and they have changed on a dime. So keep that in perspective. All right. Now here's the good news. We are no longer at 7.94%. We are down to 7.3%, right? I had a client call me this week. I got a 7.15. I was like, good job, right? Like we're back into that market. So that's good news, but it still hurts, y'all. When you look at where we were, but the thing we do have to keep in perspective is remember, that was not normal. It was not real. And we're reaping, I won't say the benefits, we're reaping the disastrous behavior of that on the back end now. And it's going to be like this for a little while. Okay, guys. So I just want to kind of start here. Forgive me again if you're rolling in late. We're going to be talking about the Tampa real estate market. We're going to be talking about sales. We're going to be talking about prices. We're going to be talking about inventory. We're going to be talking about distressed properties as well, because again, they're making a comeback at some level. And then obviously we're talking about mortgage interest rates, and we're going to talk about the overall economy. So we're going to get into some of those. Looks like we got a bunch of comments. Again, we welcome comments. I even welcome discourse as long as it's done in a professional way. More than willing to have meaningful dialogue with anybody. Again, I'm not your guru. I'm not an economist. I don't play one on TV, but I studied the heck out of this stuff. And what I'm looking for, right, as not only as an investor, but as a real estate professional, is I'm looking for the trends. I want to help my clients understand what is in front of them, right? What has happened, we can't control, right? Only thing we have control of is what potentially could come. So that's the thing we want to stay focused on today. So we're going to get into that. Stace, am I going too fast?
No, you're good.
Awesome. Y'all let me know if I'm going too fast too, because there's a lot to get into here. All right. So I want to get to some of these comments too. And forgive me, I got to pre-read just a touch before we put them on the screen here. People like to say some live stuff sometimes. So let's get into the nitty gritty. All right. Belinda says, from North Carolina, I've been here for 3 years. I relocated from Columbus. It's 40 degrees here, and I didn't sign up for this. Heading to Tampa next June, Apollo Beach area. Awesome, Belinda. Congratulations. They have a term for people who moved to Florida and moved back to the Carolinas. They call them halfbacks, by the way. You probably know that already if you've been living up there. I found that very fascinating. If you move to Florida and then you go to Georgia or the Carolinas, they call you a halfback, which is fascinating. I thought that was great. It's very interesting. All right. Doug Stone, who we haven't heard from a while, who always has interesting perspectives, says 30% of all home sales are forced. The golden handcuffs will break. Inventory is coming. Cool. All right. Got that, Doug. Cash can earn 5.4% free in municipal bonds. Cash buyers will not save the real estate market's inventory from coming. Okay. Doug thinks that we're going to have massive amounts of inventory flooding the market from somewhere. Doug, I'd love to know where that's coming from, by the way. Keep sharing that details. I'd love to know that. All right, cool. So let's get into some general numbers here in the greater Tampa Bay area and talk about what's happening. So some pretty cool things have happened. Recently, Redfin, literally today, I think, or 2 days ago, started its own consumer pricing index because they apparently weren't satisfied with the Federal Reserve's home pricing index that we've used for years and years and years. So they created one, which I do think there's some value in it. I'm going to share this with you guys real quick because, and this is super technical, but I'm gonna make it simple. Okay, we're not gonna get into the weeds on this. I just want to kind of share why I think this is a valuable tool and why they think it's a valuable tool for you as home sellers and for you as home buyers. Okay, so that is something to keep in perspective. Okay, so it's called the Redfin Home Pricing Index, and what this is they're going to track sales. Okay, they're going to track real estate sales across the nation and across metropolitan areas, which I think is really cool. Now, Case-Shiller, which is the index that we use, which I've shared with you guys before on this, that comes from the Federal Reserve, they track the 20 majors. Redfin's going to do the 50 major metros rather than the 20. So keep that in perspective. The other thing that I thought was cool about their data that I do find interesting is how they're going to approach this, because this is important, the way they're approaching it, and it's a good data source versus another one. And let me explain what I mean here. Other things to know about the RHPI, so the Redfin Home Pricing Index data. It only includes homes that have sold at least one time before, meaning new constructed homes that are changing hands for the first time are excluded. Okay, let me explain why that's important here in a second, right? It also excludes flipped homes. Okay, so anything that has been offloaded with bought in the last 6 months and then resold, they're not including that in their month-to-month data either. And that's important. I'm gonna tell you why here as well. And then when they refer to month-to-month or monthly changes, they're actually comparing rolling 3-month period. Okay, so they're taking an entire quarter and giving you that information. All right. For example, October 2023 data represents 3 months ending October 31st, and the prior month's data, the present 3 months ending September 30th. Okay. Why is that important? Well, if you want to truly know the value of an asset, you need to be able to measure that asset versus another like asset. Does that make sense? So when you have a new home coming to the market, and you're trying to compare that versus an existing home, that's not necessarily a fair comparison. Okay. How do you know how much more or how much your home is worth if you have to compare it to something new? And if you've ever tried to sell a resale home next to a new sale development, you know this is true, because people value your property at a different rate than they value the same exact type of home in the community right next to you. Does this make sense? So while I don't necessarily think that that's the end all be all, and again, this is one data point. This is an example of how to use a data source, right? So let's say you have an existing home in a community, right? This is a great source to look at and say, oh, okay, cool. And I'm not comparing my home versus flips, because if they got it for $200,000 less than me, they put $100,000 in it, but everything they have in there is brand new. It's tough to do that. Now, I'm not saying this is telling you what your home is worth. What I'm saying is this is a good tool to look at to see what the trends are in your area, where you live. It's a good tool. So I just jumped in here and grabbed Tampa as an example. Because I wanted to check this out. It doesn't go back very far. It goes all the way back to 2012. That's as far back as this data goes. Okay. And because they're pulling most of their data from the MLSs, which didn't start digitally sharing this information until right around that time, depending on where you're at. Okay. So that's part of it. I put in the metro and I put in Tampa, and then you can see the home price index. All right. Now, the pricing index is not the home price. That's a whole nother conversation. We're not going to get that deep today. But here's the thing I want you to look at is, oh, and it just updated. That's interesting. That's fascinating. The Redfin Home Price Index, when you look at this, it says that, and they just updated that because it was 7.9 right before we jumped on. Did you guys see that? That's fascinating. But it was 7.9%. It's saying that Tampa Bay is up 7.9% or 8% month over month. Now, again, their month is a 3-month rolling. I want you to take into account. So check this out. I'm going to simplify this even more. Tampa Bay home values begin to increase, not home prices, home values. And this is how, again, that's the difference, tracking value versus price, right? Do you see where I'm talking about there, Stacy? The value, not the price of your home. There's a difference. Mm-hmm. In Tampa Bay, home prices increased 0.8% month over month, so 0.8%, month over month, while year over year home prices increased by 3.6%. So we're talking about the month of October, y'all. So just keep that in perspective, to $400,000. Monthly price growth is on pace with pre-pandemic levels. So this is why I highlighted this, and this is why I want you guys to see this. Okay? Pre-pandemic levels. Who in here is excited to hear anything when we're talking about pricing or anything related to movement of money? Who in here is excited to hear somebody say the word getting back to pre-pandemic levels? Shout out to my people. High five. I'm giving you a virtual high five, right? And the reason I'm so excited about this, because I've shared this with you guys before. I hated the real estate market over the last 3 years. It was fake. It was false. We all lived in it. It was real as all get out. Don't get me wrong. But everything about it was distorted. And in a normal environment, you should not expect your home price to increase 10% a year. Okay? That's not normal. All right? At all. 2 to 5%. 5% is really, really good. 2 to 3%, if you go back, look historically, is normal. Right? So what they're saying is you got 0.8 of a point in 1 month. We're getting closer back to those pre-pandemic levels of growth. That's great news. Okay. So I wanted to share that with everybody because I think that that's extremely valuable. All right. Number one. Number two, just taking a top-down view again, right here. Redfin says that our numbers are just a touch different, but they're really close. Redfin says that the Tampa Bay real estate market is sitting at the median sales price for a home here. And again, median and average are different, but the median sales price is right around $400,000. They're showing it down 2.5%. We're actually up. We'll argue about that later. But the point is, why is that important, Juan? Well, if you're wondering whether Tampa is still a good value to invest in, or if this is a good place to relocate to, or if it's a good time to sell, this is how you start looking at this information. If you want to know that, you want to go back to the national data, right? And here's the thing I want to help share here. Where we at, y'all? Let's get to the U.S. Get you back to the U.S. Bear with me. If we look at the United States overall and where they're sitting, United States is sitting in pricing. They're at 414. Okay, so 415,000 roughly, right? Versus Tampa, that's $400,000 for the median sales price. Tampa's a value. We're on the coast. I don't need to argue this. This is the one thing I try to help people understand all the time. Coastal real estate in the United States is valuable. Unless you live in an area that is poisoned or has extreme challenges, it's valuable, right? And it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. Go look anywhere in the United States, right? And if you compare us to areas like Miami, right? If I had a location like Miami, now, I'm not saying that Tampa's Miami, y'all, but their median price point in Miami is $555,500, which really means it costs $700,000 to buy the average home in Miami, right? We're a steal. If you compare us to places like Los Angeles, San Diego, Boston, Massachusetts, right? And I know we're not those places. I understand, but this is why people are still spending money in the greater Tampa Bay area and in Florida. Net migration of over 300,000 to the state last year attracted more high income earners than anybody in the country. More families making over $200,000 a year moved to Florida than anywhere else in the country. Keep that in perspective, right? Awesome. Okay. All right. No, I'm nerding out. Quick reset. For those of you who have survived the first 20 minutes or the first 30 minutes talking about numbers here. Again, we're talking about sales, we're talking about inventory, we're talking about prices, and we're going to talk about distressed property sales and the 30,000 foot view of what's happening here in the greater Tampa Bay area. Thank you for joining us. This is Tampa Talk Tuesday with the Living in Tampa, Florida team here. I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Miss Stacy Amon. Stacy, what is up? Thanks, y'all. And thanks for the contributions in the chat so far. We appreciated it. If you're looking to make a connection, you got questions you need to have answered, all of our contact information is going to be in the description down below. But as you can see, we've got our website right on the screen, as well as our number that goes straight to me, y'all. So if you need anything, feel free to shoot a text, email. And if you get really froggy, there's a link to my calendar where you can schedule a time that is most convenient for you. So keep that in mind as well. All right, y'all, let's get back to these comments. Doug's chiming in. Let me grab here. Doug says new construction, failing short-term rentals, expiration of mortgage forbearance programs, falling rental rates plus Fed spending will keep inflation hot, requiring the Fed to raise rates. Interesting, dude. Doug, you're pretty dialed in on the lingo. I think I would love to bring you on a during the day and talk about this, because I definitely have some beef with some of these data points, but I'm always open to learn, man. I'm always open to learn and get perspective, because I don't necessarily think I'm seeing some of the same things. The forbearance programs, like that data we've shared on this channel before, that's not real. We definitely don't have that to the numbers that are going to cause a flood of properties. And then the short-term rental thing, again, that's very speculative talk, right? So like the numbers don't prove that either. And I'm just bringing this up, y'all. Like, again, I'm down with anybody who wants to bring data and info, but like we still have short-term rentals. And then here in greater Tampa Bay area, like it drives a lot of our economy, right? So they have made it more difficult, and that's typically done by the local municipalities and HOAs, but that's a huge part of our economy here. I could see that other places nationally, but again, here's the thing I want to help people get in perspective. Real estate is local, right? Real estate is local. So Doug could be spot on where he's at. And I want to make sure that I giving respect where it's due, because again, you got the acumen. Like there's definitely some things going on here, but I just want to make sure that we're having conversations rooted in data. Again, we're talking about Tampa here, so appreciate that. Cool. All right, so let's get into the numbers, right? So like we can start talking about where these things actually are. I would love to break out the mortgage, like go through all the mortgage details. We're not going to do that today. Like I said, if y'all are interested, we will definitely do that, because just give me the green light and I'm here for it. But right now, what I want to talk about is the overview of what's going on in our marketplace. All right. So bear with me, and I'm gonna lead the first one, Stace, and then I'm gonna hand it over to you. Is that okay?
Perfect.
All right. Bear with me, because I want to make sure that y'all got this set up. All right. So let me get to my shared screen, and then we'll pop this up and you guys can walk with me here. Okay, cool. I'm going to have to draw on this thing. so bear with me to just kind of keep things in perspective. So where I want to start is actual sales. All right. This is, we're going to kick the whole night off here. We're going to dig into sales first. All right. And I like this because it breaks down sales in categories. And what I mean by that is, like, it's great that you're having sales, but where are those sales occurring, right? I find that very, very helpful as a tool to get perspective, because there's that conversation about median and average and those types of things. And we're going to get into a little bit of that later for sure. But what I want to show you is where the sales are actually happening. So let me get this big enough. Is that finally large enough, Stacy? I think we got one more.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, cool. So you can see this. This is Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete this is the entire Tampa Bay area. Like I said, and then we're going to narrow it down. But here's what I want you to take into perspective, okay? In the greater Tampa Bay area, we had 3,012 sales in the month of October. That was down 13.5% year over year. Okay, so that's something to keep in perspective. Now, I'm talking about sales. I'm not talking about prices. Please keep that in perspective, because people, they really miss that sometimes. I know I used to, right? But here's why I want to show you this, because this breaks down where those sales actually occurred. This is single family homes. This is not condos. This is not townhomes. And this is not manufactured homes, because we have those here as well. All right. But what I want you to see is where the action is taking place. Okay. So from 100,000 to 150,000, there were only 24 sales. So if you're looking at making a move to the area and you're trying to buy a home in that market, because that's a market unto itself, right, Stacy?
Mm-hmm.
100 to 150, that's a very limited budget in the greater Tampa Bay area, and it's very difficult to buy a home in that category. Okay. When you move to 150 to 200, there were 76 sales. 200 to 250, 152, 250 to 299, or almost 300. There were almost 300 sales there. The bulk of our sales is happening between 300 and $1 million. And a majority of that is happening between 300,000 and 600,000. Y'all tracking with me?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. And the reason I want to show you that is because when we come back and we show these numbers here, which are the total sales, now you can start to wrap your mind around why. Okay, why do things look the way they do? So the median sales price in the greater Tampa Bay area was $407,000 in the month of October. That's up 1.9%. Okay, 1.9%. Tampa's still doing its thing. It's incredible. But our average sales price, okay, if you remember, you take all of those sales, you divide them by the number of sales, that gives you the average, which is almost $507,000. And that is up 5.5% from October of 2022. So we're still doing pretty well there. All right, so keep that in perspective. Now what I want to do is go to the inventory, because we started today talking about the mortgage rates and people who have the golden handcuffs, so to speak, which is what Doug called it, which is these incredible mortgage interest rates of 3% or whatever they are. And here's what's happening here. So active listings, this is what is on the market to purchase here in the greater Tampa Bay area. Remember, we're almost 3.3 million people at this point, not a small metropolitan area. We have probably 150 people moving to the area every single month, at least. Okay, so that's a lot. And normal people moving around the city, you should have more inventory on. And I'm going to show you what the normal inventory should look like as well. But just to kind of wrap our minds around on this, just to get started here, we have 8,477 homes. That's down 6.2% year over year. So inventory has been a problem. And if you look here, we had inventory explode last year, right? 116% it was up. It still was lower than any time pre-pandemic. So I want to make sure we frame this. And I'm going to show you the graph here in a second. But it's steadily tricked down, and then inventory's gotten tighter and tighter. Why? Because people who have great mortgage rates are not selling in a 7.5% interest rate environment unless they have to. Okay, so that's what this is showing you. The trend is pushing that direction. Okay, now if I go down on this chart and show you here, if we go from left to right, if you look back to 2019 on this side, almost back to 2018, January 2018, inventory levels in the greater Tampa Bay area, this is pre-pandemic. No one knew anything about pandemic. Interest levels, which were considered normal at that time, were about 12,000 homes on the market. This is the pandemic. You can see how ridiculously low it got. And today, we're sitting at 8,477. We're still 3,500 homes short of what is considered normal. All right, everybody tracking with me?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot, y'all. All right, now we talked about price briefly, but I want to go back and talk about that again just to dial it in a little bit more. Okay, give me to 13. Let's talk about those prices again. So our average sales price is right around 506 or 507,000. Stacy, this is pretty normal for us, right? Like the average home in Tampa, a 3.2 or a 4.3, we're selling in, mid to high fours up to that 750 range on average, right?
Yes.
Totally depends on the community. A lot of factors get taken into account there. The closer you get to the beach, the more expensive things get. The closer further away from the beach you get, the more affordable homes become. So just keep that in perspective. So something to kind of keep in perspective there. The median percent of original list price is actually going up again, which means sellers are starting to get closer, but I'm also seeing reductions. So keep that in perspective. This is a soft time of the year until the snowbirds get back down south. That means the people that are going to move from the northern areas down to Florida, we're going to start picking up here again. Usually right after January, home sales start to tick up again here in the state of Florida. So keep that in perspective if that's on your path. The median time to contract is only 20 days in the greater Tampa Bay area. All right. So keep that in perspective. New pending sales, that is up 3.5%. New listings is up 6%. So that's something to keep in mind. What is that trend line doing with new listings? Because if you're getting more new listings and you have more active listings, that's going to put downward pressure on pricing as long as interest rates stay elevated. Okay. If interest rates come down, I think if they hit anything near 5.5 this year, if they do, and again, I'm not telling you they're going to, if they do, the market's going to break loose. You're going to get more homes to the market. You're also going to get way more buyers. Remember, you've got over a year and a half of pent up demand of people thinking the market was going to crash. And I just want to help everybody with that right now. Anybody who said the market was going to crash for the last 2 years, I'm happy to help you, happy to remind you that you were completely incorrect. Right. And you've been belting it from the top of your lungs forever. So I'm just helping you guys remember that you ain't got it, right? There's entire YouTube channels dedicated to this that have been talking about this for 3 years. And now it's the end of the year. They're going to reset and talk about something else because they've been wrong for that long. Will the market correct at some point? The answer is unequivocally, most likely, yes. When will that be? No one knows. You just can't. You can't get it right. You're doing your best to try to figure these things out. All right. Pending inventory is down almost 10%, something to keep in perspective. And then we just talked about active listings there. Months of supply, 2.5%. This is why this is important, y'all. A balanced market is a 6-month supply of homes. Now, once you get over 3.5, you really start to put things back in the buyer's hands, just so you guys know, right? Even though a balanced market is, in theory, where both people have equal footing, that's not the way it works because real estate is hyper-local and each house is different, right? They all have 4 walls and a roof in theory, but some of them have really nice kitchens and updated bathrooms and others of them do not. So this is where you really have to kind of keep these things in perspective for you. But right around 3.5 months of supply is where I have seen in my experience, 11 years, I haven't been in this business forever, but that 3.5 month mark is usually when buyers, even though we're not in a balanced market, buyers really start to grab the upper hand. You just see more of it then because there's a lot more opportunity. So we do need a full month's more of supply. We're not going to see that at 20 days time of contract yet. Something to take note of and keep in perspective. Okay, so I think that's important for everybody to kind of wrap their mind around. Making sure we're dialed in on all that. All right, now the last but not least is what I wanted to talk about here is distressed. Because this is the thing, right? Like, I love the phone calls. Hey, can you get me a list of foreclosures? I absolutely can. It's going to be really, really short. so hold tight. But it's this is going to be a real thing. And for a lot of different factors, right? Like there are some things that I think that Doug was saying that are fair, right? Like people taking on mortgage interest rates at 8% or 8.25%, they didn't qualify because they couldn't afford them, y'all. I do want to keep that in perspective. You did not get a mortgage if you couldn't afford it. So anybody who says that, they're full of crap. It's not the way it works. But if you lose your job or one of your incomes goes away, that is now a huge problem. You can no longer afford that home, right, at those interest rates if you are maxed out. There's a lot of considerations there too. But here's the thing I want to share with you guys. All right, traditional sales. That means that sold either cash or using a mortgage in a traditional manner, right? There was no third party involved in the money or foreclosure or bank owned or any of that stuff. So that's what that means. There were 2,981 sales, right? So if you add up these 3 categories, it should add up that 3,000 number that I gave you earlier, which was 3,000. What the heck was that, Stacy? 3,012. Okay, so just so you guys know, you can always check my math. All right, so 2,981. There were 2,981 traditional sales. That's down 14.2%. Again, that's not prices, that's sales. Median price, 410, as we discussed. That is in the traditional sales, all right? That is up 2.5%. So keep that in mind as well. Closed sales for foreclosures. Now, here's where I want you guys to see this. And this is where you need to protect yourself as a consumer because the headlines will read, foreclosures are up 383%. That's a huge number, right, Stacy? Like, oh my word, there's a wave coming.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at it, going from 6 to 29 is not a wave, right? It's not a wave, but it is that's a significant increase nonetheless, right? Give the respect it's due, for sure. Now, short sales, we were down 33%. Like, that sounds like a big number. Short sales, it's one house, right? It's one house. So keep that in perspective as well. And the reason I'm sharing this data is because it is important to know what that looks like too. And I'm gonna have to back this out a little bit. Historically speaking, what does that mean, right? Where are we at with the data here? Still not out far enough, are we? You guys can see all this. Okay. Traditional, foreclosure, and short sales. So go back to the colors: orange, green, and blue, right? So traditional sales going all the way back to 2019. You can kind of see what's going on here. Short sales were the blue, I think. Yep, short sales were the blue. Those kind of popped right during COVID there. You saw a jump, and then they went back down. And this is where those forbearance programs were going on that Doug was talking about. So definitely something to take note of there. There were a bunch of people saved that had to put that off. But the government did some interesting things in the back end, extending FHA mortgages. Like, there's all kinds of stuff there. Another pop last spring as well, and then you see this big jump here. But again, that jump represents the three, right? And it's giving you the price on it. It's showing you the median sales price on those short sales. So just keeping that in perspective. So I wanted to dig in these numbers a little bit and give you guys some perspective on what's happening here locally, right? So just to recap on what we talked about so far, because I know I threw a lot of numbers. So let me go back to that page 13 where it's kind of got all this dialed in. Closed sales were down 13.5%. Sold 3,000 properties. Paid in cash was down just 2%. The median sales price in Tampa is $407,400, up 1.9%. The average sales price, again, the total number of sales divided by itself, is 5.5%, up 5.5% at 507,000 roughly. The median percent of asked to list price is 97.6%. Homes are staying on the market for roughly 20 days. New pending sales are up 29.8, or I'm sorry, and up 3.5%. New listings are up 6%. So we're getting a little bit more inventory. That's good news for home buyers. And the pending inventory is down 10% roughly. Okay. We have 2.5 months of supply. So keep that in perspective also. All right. That is the greater Tampa Bay area. What I want to do now, and I know I'm gonna take a step back, just shouted a bunch of numbers at y'all. If y'all are with me, let me know you're with me. I know I just dropped the bomb on everybody. Like, and this is hard, guys. Numbers are nuanced. You can take data and use it any way you want. It's like I always tell people, data can be used as a weapon. It's dangerous. It can be used to validate or discredit any argument. It's crazy how it works, right? What I'm trying to do here is share the data, share the trends, so you can kind of understand where things are and where they're going, so you can make quality decisions on your own. So if you would like to have a conversation about a specific category, whether that's townhomes or single family homes or whatever, don't hesitate to reach out to me and Stacy. Contact information is down below. We're here for that. Okay. So we just want to make sure that we're giving perspective. Again, real estate is hyper local. This could be entirely different where you're watching from. All right. My recommendation is that listen, if you're an adult and you own a home, this is most likely one of the largest financial assets that you own. It is it's wise to just get some perspective on it and just to do a little bit of homework on it, right? Like, I love guitars. You guys can see them behind me, right? Like, I do my homework before I ever buy a guitar. I touch it. I put my hands on it. I do all the research I possibly can. I try to learn all the things, but I'm still going to be ignorant about certain things. I'm a human being. I'm not a luthier. I don't make them, right? Like, I don't make the components that go in them. But what I try to do is study and make the best decision I can for myself. Have I ever bought a guitar that I didn't love? Yeah, a couple, right? But I've got it down pretty well at this point. But it's taken homework, it's taken research, and it's taken, my attention to make that happen. So hopefully what I'm sharing with you kind of helps you just put things in perspective, right? The real estate market is a commodity, right? Houses are a commodity. It's cyclical from historical perspective. There are corrections, there are ebbs and flows. All of those things are true. What you're trying to do as either a homeowner or an investor they can be two entirely different things. Remember, you don't get hurt when you buy real estate. You don't get hurt when you buy real estate. If I go back to the chart on Redfin there on the home price index, right? Tampa has gained over $200,000 in their home price value on average in 10 years. And if I went back 20 years, it would be even more, right? You get hurt in real estate when you sell. That's when you get hurt. Hopefully you never have to sell if you don't want to, right? Hopefully you manage the asset well, and you can use the asset to do work for you in the future, right? People that we do business with have paid off their home. They'll refinance it and use a portion of that to buy another property. They do it all the time, right? Not telling you that's what you should do. Hopefully you have somebody counseling you on your finances. A great FA is a good resource. I don't play one of those on YouTube either, right? But here's what I know. The people who own real estate have typically, on average, and if you go look at it statistically, they have the most wealth, right? And at the end of the day, people feel much better about things they're in control of, right? I'm a control enthusiast. That's what I tell everyone. My mother was very gracious. She gave me that name as a child. She didn't call me a control freak. She was very kind.
Right? As mothers are.
That's right. But I'm a control enthusiast. So like, if I'm going to own the thing, or at least control it, because there's this old joke, right? Like, you don't really own anything. Anybody who owns a house outright knows if they don't pay the taxes after 3 years, guess who comes and gets that? Because you don't own squat, right? We rent everything in the United States. However, you do own the note. Or I'm sorry, you do own the deed. All right. So thank you for indulging me on that. Stacy. Now, yes. Just whooped a dead horse. I want to get into Pasco. Okay. So like, Stacy's able to take it easy on you because I just, beat you guys up.
Pasco looked pretty comparable to Tampa.
Okay. Let's get into that.
The numbers were very similar.
Cool. All right, let's look at Pasco County. Now, Pasco County, for those of you wondering, it's to the north. We're talking about Wesley Chapel, right? We're talking about Odessa. We're talking about San Antonio. We're talking about Dade City. Those are the areas up north, just north of North Tampa up there, right? Lutz area, just north of that as well. So let's get into some of the numbers here, Stacy. Talk to me. What's going on up in Pasco?
All right. Yep. Our closed sales were down 8.1%. year over year, which I think that's pretty close to what Tampa is too. Yeah, and our average sale price is up 7.1% to $431,030. When I first saw that, I thought that can't be right, because if you follow us on social media, we do a weekly market report, and at the end of mine, I always focus on Wesley Chapel, and our average sale price is well over 431. So
weekly though, weekly is different. It's a shorter snapshot than the monthly.
True. Yeah, right? That's true. But yeah, so, and that's all of Pasco County. So that's the average sale price.
Yep.
And our sellers are getting 98% of list price, and that's up 2.2% of the median. They're
almost getting the whole enchilada up there.
Yeah. Yep. And our median time to contract is 21 days. I think Tampa was 20.
Yep.
So yeah, I feel that's pretty accurate, because if the house is updated and ready to show, it's going
3 weeks
pretty fast.
Yep.
I mean, it's not going the same day, but it's going.
Thank God. There's still the properties though. We still have those that are going multiple offers, but they have to be the best of the best, and they have to be priced correctly on the first try.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah. And our new listings are up 6.4%.
Yep.
And active listings are down 4.8%. In our supply, we have 2.4 months supply of inventory.
So we're like almost identical.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's almost up 9.1%.
Yeah. I want to get into the specific sales, just like we showed you guys the greater Tampa Bay area here, because this is important to keep perspective on, right? Like, because you might be watching from rural Indiana, and a a great home to you guys. You know, you might have a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, 3,000 square foot monster out there, and you can get it for $350. I have friends that sell real estate in those areas, and I'm blown away. They're like, yeah, you can get an acre and 4,000 square feet in a basement. Like, yeah, for $350. I'm like, that is unbelievable. But that is not the case here. And I want to give you specifics on what that looks like, right? So going back to the categories where things are mostly selling in, same thing in Pasco County, right, Stacy? 300 to 600,000 is where a majority of those sales take place.
Yeah.
And something to keep in consideration here, y'all, is if you're looking at Pasco specifically, those areas like Wesley Chapel, San Antonio, they have the most new home construction. So the builders are wheeling and dealing right now. Okay, they bought land at really cheap, but they are having to borrow money at really expensive right now. So they're dealing really close. The gap between new home sales and existing home sales pricing is getting really close, especially in Pasco. So there are great opportunities. We've got 5.9% interest rate incentives. When they get really like they're trying to push properties out, I've seen as low as 4.99, which is a great rate. And like $20,000 of flex cash or $25,000 of flex. I mean, they're really trying to make that work. So something to keep in mind. To me, if you're looking in Wesley Chapel or San Antonio or Odessa, I'm only looking new construction. My insurance is going to be the cheapest. My overall cost of ownership is going to be the least expensive in theory. Again, things can go wrong, but overall, statistically speaking, it's going to be lower. And you are most likely going to get the best interest rate and spend the least out of pocket to do it. Right?
Yes, I agree.
So it's definitely something to take into account there. And then let's see the distressed real quick. That's what I wanted to get my hands on. Distressed in Pasco, just to kind of wrap your mind around. Your 100% decrease on closed sales for short sale. Again, these numbers can be so deceiving, right? You see these big percentages. It's about how many at the end of the day. But you're up, all the percent on foreclosures because you had 0 in 2022 and now you got 10. So this is something to keep in perspective. We are going to see more foreclosures. It is unfortunately normal, right? 230,000, 250,000 on average, in a normal market, nationally, that is normal. You don't want to see it go any higher than that. So definitely something to keep in perspective. Stacy, thank you for sharing that. That's great. I will briefly run through the Pinellas County numbers with everyone because I know we're getting a little bit deeper here. So Pinellas County, again, Gulf Coast, Clearwater, St. Pete, Dunedin, St. Pete Beach. These are the areas that we're talking about here. So if these are your areas, this is what you're looking at. Closed sales were down 15%. Paid in cash was down almost 6%. The median sales price was up 5.7% to $465,000. The average sales price is almost $497,000, up 3.2%. Median days to contract 17. Again, beaches move pretty quick. That's just part of the deal. And then where was it? 2.6 months of inventory. This is creeping up here. So that's something that we've noticed as well in Pinellas County. This is where I live. I live right by Indian Rocks Beach. So just give you guys perspective on that, something to keep taking into consideration. And then as we move to the segmented sales, 300 to 600 again is our biggest price point. But then we also have pretty heavy weighted on that 600 to $1 million as well. We're just closer to the beach. It's what it is. Our homes get smaller here. We're almost 600 square feet on average, smaller than Pasco County. So if you need more house and you want it to be newer, you need to go to Pasco County. If you want by the beach and you're okay with a smaller home that is somewhere between 30 and 50 years old on average, Pinellas County is where you're going to go hang out. So just give you guys that perspective. And last but not least, we will head over to Hillsborough County, which is where Tampa proper is. Also areas like Brandon, Riverview, Plant City, West Chase, just to keep that in perspective as well. Closed sales were down 16.7%. Median sales price is $430,000, up 3.6%. The average sales price, $543,763, up 8.6%. That is amazing. I'm telling you right now, y'all. Like, people are like, when's the wave of foreclosures coming? It's crazy to me. I'm just looking at this. I'm like, this is insane. 21 days the median time to contract. So again, 3 weeks is the average home sale. New pending sales is down 1.1%. New listings are up 1%. So just a tick in Tampa. They're not as high as we are. And their active months of supply is 2.4%. Let's go to the breakout of where the sales are, what the sales look like. She's on page 20. And if we dial into this number specifically, again, looking at categorically, that 300 to 600,000, again, on average in the greater Tampa Bay area, that's what you're going to be spending for a 3.2 or a 4.3 or something along those lines in the greater Tampa Bay area. It's going to be somewhere between, 450 and 700,000. It's just, that's basically what we're seeing in the area here. Whew, Stacy, I said a lot.
You did. You said a lot in a short amount of time.
Oh my word. I feel like that was so tough. Y'all, thank you. I hope you got value out of this. I'm always trying to condense these as much as possible and just really try to provide as much value because it can be difficult. Trying to help give perspective on a way to look at these numbers. Again, I'm not the only way to look at these numbers. I'm not your guru. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not on here and telling anybody how to spend their money. I know real estate. I love the business. I love trying to figure out where the puck is going. All of us have access to a lot of this information. Not all of it. Some of the stuff we can't share with you just because we have a license. It doesn't work that way. But most of this stuff you can find public, right? If you want to know about the information, the foreclosures, the forbearance, those types of things, there are all kinds of public resources. I've linked them in these live streams before. I'll actually put the mortgage monitor on there, it's from Adam Data. It's incredible. It'll show you things like that. So if you're one of the people who are speculating, who are banking on a crash, right? Like you can go validate that decision for yourself, right? Or if you're concerned about it, you can go check that out. We typically deal with investors who are high income earners or who have a job or are high income earners, or they are small business owners and looking to invest into small multifamily or short-term rentals. We're happy to help you with that, right? We typically don't deal with a lot of apartments or commercial buildings. I have a great real estate broker here that I refer that to because that's their area of expertise. And the reason I share that with you is because I don't ever try to talk about anything that I don't do, I don't work on, or I don't understand, right? There's a lot that I don't know, but I try to stay in my lane. If you are interested in selling locally, if you're interested in relocating, picking up a second home, or just that small investment here in the greater Tampa Bay area, do not hesitate to reach out to me and Stacy. Both of our Instagram handles are on the screen right now. So Stacy is stacy.amon.realtor and mine is juan.alcala.realtor. You can connect with us there. Our website is listed down below. That's tbhomesearch.com. And then that phone number there, it takes you right to this bad boy right here. Okay. So that's 813-261-3540. You can connect with me here. Happy to have any conversation regarding this. If you have questions, y'all, you're trying to figure out whether this is the right decision, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll try to put all the links in here that we can to list these publicly. If you're watching this in the future, thanks for checking in with us. Do not hesitate to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Love to have that follow, but more importantly, love to notify you every time we make another video just like this. And until next time, go out and live that Tampa life. Stacy, any final words for them?
Next week, we'll have more fun topics. It won't just be numbers. I promise.
This was fun to me. Thank you very much. Right?
We could tell you were having a great time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the compliment there, Stacey. I definitely appreciate the compliment. That is hilarious. Yes, we will go back to talking about things. Again, the end of every month, we're going to share the data because it's important to some people. Let's just put it that way.
It is important. I'm just saying.
Yes.
There are some more fun things to talk about.
Way more fun things. And if you follow the channel, you know that to be true. This young lady has helped us tour Wesley Chapel, and Marcia's helped us tour Parish and Bradenton and all the places. And guys, we have a whole year planned of great content for you guys about all things living in the greater Tampa Bay area. So if that interests you, make sure you check out the channel, follow us. Happy to connect. And like Stacy said, we will make sure that we bring you fun topics next week. All right, y'all. Have a great night. Bye. Take care.